Hey everyone, how's it going? Um, Welcome back to another Clip Studio Paint tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over the 3D modeling or the 3D models that Clip Studio Paint offers you. Now, 3D models, this is something that's been used by artists since I guess art began. Um, Usually you're probably more familiar with these little wooden 3D models that you can change the poses of. Um, so some artists use these 3D models to, create a certain pose, and then they look at it and they sketch it on their sketchbook or whatever their canvas is. But since the introduction of digital media, some artists actually use photographs as a reference, and because it's digital, you can put the photo underneath the canvas and give it an opacity, and then you can, for lack of a better word, trace it, and so you can trace your references that way. But one of the things that Clip Studio Paint offers you are these digital 3D models. And that's something that I wanted to go over here. It's something that I've recently been using, and it's in the beginning I found it very frustrating, but I've gotten used to it. So let's say, okay, so my setup is not normal. I changed a couple things on my setup, but you should have the same thing on yours. If you notice over here on the right, you should have a stack of folders here. The very bottom one is a folder with a little man in front of it. If you click that one, you will open up the 3D models. Now I have it selected on pose right now, and so the very top one, Superman #1, that was something that I created, but I'll show you how to create your own. But so they have this list of already installed positions of 3D models. So if you just want to grab, you can grab any one of these and just drag them into your canvas, and then it'll have that particular pose. And so there's your 3D model. Let me minimize that so it's not in our way. So there's your 3D model that you can use as a reference to when you draw particular scenes, if you want to create a scene or something. And so here's the tools that you will be using to manipulate. These first three manipulate the camera, so you can have different views of your scene, and then the other four remaining manipulate the positions of the character. So let's look at the second option here. See how the floor and the model both move in the same direction. That's because the camera is, I'm using the camera to manipulate there. This other, the fourth one, it has a square with arrows up and down. That manipulates the position of the model in the scene. And then the first one is used to like the upper, like a rotation of the camera around the model. So just remember that the first three manipulate the camera, so you can move the camera around in the scene, and then the remaining four manipulate the position of the model. So here I moved the model down. I zoomed in the camera and I moved the model down. But if you see this option down here at the bottom where it has a square with an arrow on top of it, if you click that one, you'll see how the model moves back up. And that's because that option there moves the model towards the ground. So the feet of the model are on the ground. Before I had the model going through the ground. And this lets you, like if you have multiple models on your scene, this allows you to make sure that all the models are touching the ground. And so I have the head selected here. What do I want to do here now? So I'm just gonna manipulate this so that I want to put her here on this side. I want to, and then I'm gonna ground her. I want to add another model into my scene, and so let me just adjust this so that I can put another model here. Let's say I'm just gonna grab a generic a male. So you have the male and you have a female, and then like I said, I made this Superman where I just bulked up the character. In fact, let me grab that one. I'll grab that one and then I'll show you how you can manipulate the model. And so it's kind of tricky, like when you dump another model into the scene. This one, it's like for some reason it put it way in the background. So I want to see if I zoom in, it just zooms in the whole scene, but he's still in the background. So I want to grab, I don't think, okay. See, this one is moving the model, but it's moving them only up and down. I want it to move it towards me in a 3-dimensional. So the very last option there, it will move the character on towards me and away from me position. You kind of have to play with it. What I'm doing here is I'm lining up the shadows. If you see the shadows, I keep them in the same position, and that's how I know they're lined up. Now let me move this over just a bit, and we're gonna zoom in on the man itself, and you can see the arms are much thicker than the other model, the first model. And if you go down to this, what looks like a dog bone, it'll bring up these options here. You can't move this for some reason, so what you got to do is just resize it to wherever you want to put it, where it's out of the way. But you can see here that I adjusted the neck width, so the neck is a bit thicker, and I kept everything. See, that should be 0. So I want certain things to be thicker because I want him to be like a muscular kind of guy. So the arm width, I maxed it out. So if you look at 0, that's the like the first model, it's the average. That's the standard arm width. But I want him to be really beefy, so I maximized that. This should be also 0. Yeah, if it's not beefed up, I just want it to be generic. The hand width, I had to play with the hand width and the feet width, because the standard hand width were too small. It looked kind of weird with big bulky arms and then really tiny hands. Same with the feet. I didn't adjust the leg width too much. In fact, I didn't adjust it at all. I mean, I guess I can, because if you look at it, see, when you start adjusting the leg width, the hips, they get really big, and that's not what I wanted. So I just kept it 0, but I guess I could adjust it to something. And this is something, you have to play with. Let's see, 10 maybe. Yeah, we'll go with that. The other option here is these where you have this so you can see, let me just rotate it. Again, those 4 in the last options will allow you to move the model without the whole scene, where this first 3 options, you can see the first model moves, but the last 4 only allows you just the model itself. So that lets you manipulate the model. Keep that in mind. So this other option here, where it's a man in front of another man, this is more like a quick adjust. Instead of adjusting each individual item, the software Clip Studio Paint lets you have these preset ones. So like this last one, kid, if you start scaling it, he starts looking more like a kid, where he has a big head, big feet, and small body, just like a kid. And then you have the sensual, where he's like really like a Incredible Hulk kind of character, or it beefed up. And then if it was a woman, I'm sure it would be the voluptuous type of woman. And then the slim, you can make him really slim guy, like a Spider-Man kind of guy. And then the overweight, you can make him a really big guy, like maybe the Blob or something. So those are just really quick, convenient sliders. Instead of manipulating each individual item, you can just go with the generic slider there. This one also, it lets you, right now, let me make it a non-symmetrical model. So you can see, you can also flip the model. So you can do that. Let's see what else. This grounds the character. We already went over that one. This is how you save a position. Let's say you manipulated the model in a certain position. That's how you can save that position. This other save button here will allow you to save the model's preset. Like, let's say you made a really bulky model, or a really overweight model, and you want to save that. You can always just save that, which is what I did with the Superman. So I made a real muscular model, and then I saved it. And then I also, if you guys remember Superman Action Comics #1, so I created that pose, and so now I'm just gonna dump it onto the model. And so there's Superman lifting a car over his head, like in Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman. And so you can create that scene again if you want to draw it, and there you have it. And it even gives you the shadow down on the floor. But like I said, so what you want to do is move your empty layer on top of the model, and then you can start sketching on top of it. But you know what? Let's create kind of a scene here. I'm gonna put this guy in the background, kind of over here in the corner, and then I'm going to move the whole scene onto the canvas. So, and then just by manipulating the camera, let me move her a little bit to this side over here, kind of like in front of him. Yeah, something like that. So now you have a scene where this guy, he's about to throw something on this other character, right? And so now you can use the camera to position the camera in a more dynamic view. So let's say you have a scene in your comic book where this guy wants to throw something at her, and she's not looking right. He's gonna throw it right behind her. So you want to pick a kind of an angle that best dramatizes this event. So I'm gonna choose something from like a view from below, looking up towards her. I really don't care about her feet, so I would put it somewhere like this, and then move it to the side a little bit, just so everything fits into the canvas. So you have enough room to draw whatever it is, a boulder, a box, or a car, or whatever the guy has over his head. So you have enough room to draw that, and then all you gotta do is another thing I like to do is lower the opacity of your models, just so it's not so bright. So I just lower the opacity, a little bit, and then like I said, make sure your layer, your empty layer is on above, on top of the models. That way that you can see your lines. And then so you just use the models as a reference. They don't give you every detail. This is something you as the artist need to do. All right, you have to fill in these details. But yeah, so you can start drawing the details, the hair, whatever hair you want, or make it a guy or a girl. It doesn't matter. But it just gives you a basic reference point as to where everything is gonna line up to. Like, you don't have to guess as to where specifically the guy behind her is going to be, and what angle he needs to be at, or whatever, because it's much easier to manipulate the 3D models and then choose a kind of the perfect angle with your camera. And then once you have that scene, just hold it there and then just use those models as your reference as to where your character's appendages are going to be, where their arms are, and all that stuff. So, and then you can zoom in and get as tight as you want to get all the details that you need to get in there. All right, so I'm gonna do another blank canvas here. I'm gonna just show you guys how I manipulate the models, because when I first started using these 3D models, it was really frustrating for me. So I'm just gonna throw in a male model. It doesn't matter. Let me close this over here so we have some room to see. So the way that I used to manipulate these models were, I would grab, like, if I wanted to move the arm up, let's say I want to create like a Superman pose where he's like flying at you. And so what I would do is I want to make this leg like his knee up to his chest, and then on this the other leg I'll just keep it straight. The right arm I will move it up towards like he's flying at you. So what I used to do is I would used to grab like here, and then I would move the arm up because I wanted it up, but it would move everything else on the model like a ragdoll. And then I would have to go back and adjust the chest, and then the chest would move the arm again, and then I would have to go back and adjust the arm, and I would go back and forth like that. So what I discovered was it's much easier if you manipulate the joints. So in this case I want the arm to go up, so I'm going to choose the shoulder here, and you have to position the camera to give you the best angle. And you can see here there's three lines: the blue, the green, and the red. You can see here that the blue line is the one that moves up and down. So when you hover your mouse over it, it turns yellow, and then all you got to do is go all the way up. And that's as far as the arm goes up in that position. That's another great thing I like about these 3D models. It doesn't allow you to move the arms and legs into ridiculous positions that are not humanly possible. So to a certain extent, so I do like that about these 3D models. So I'm going to readjust the camera, and I can say I want to move it a little bit forward, and I can see this line moves the shoulder, roll it forward. I want to roll it forward, and now I need to move the arm again. So I just slowly adjust the arm to where I want it to be, to make it look like he's has his arm straight up. Now I'm going to choose the elbow, and you'll notice like if you click the elbow and nothing comes up, click the other side of the elbow, and then you should see a sphere. And you see this only manipulates one way, the green line, like a hinge. So I'm gonna put it right about there. Again, I'm gonna zoom in just to get in a little tighter. And then I want to make his hand into a fist, but first maybe I can adjust this a little bit better. And yeah, you just have to keep playing with it. But remember, always, it's better to adjust from the joints than it is the just grabbing the arm and moving them like a ragdoll. And so you can move the camera so that you can see that you're getting the right angles that you need. And so now you can manipulate the fingers individually just to close them up. They only have one adjusting point, kind of like the elbow. They're like a hinge. So, and again, just keep adjusting the camera so that you get the best angle for you to manipulate these joints. Alright, I'm not gonna do every finger, but you get the idea to make a fist, right? So now I'm going to adjust this other arm. I want it like close into his chest. So that's not what I want to manipulate. There it is. I want to manipulate the shoulder. And the elbow. I want to bring just a little bit. There you go, up. Yeah. Now keep adjusting the camera so that you get the best angle to show you the right position that you want to manipulate the arms. So I want to move this a little bit down, maybe get it closer to where his hand is, more to his chest. Roll his shoulder back. No, that's not what I want. So yeah, sometimes it's just a trial and error kind of thing. Just play with it. Remember, you always have the undo button. And so I think that's good. And usually I click the white paper on the right there, and I can see without the clutter. So yeah, I mean it's okay for right now. And so his head needs to look up like he's flying at me. That's as far as the head goes, but you can also manipulate the neck. So we're going to manipulate the neck. It's this green line. Yeah, so there it is. And so also the leg. So we said we wanted to bring one of these legs up. So yeah, so that fist will be, that hand will be a fist, and you can also make the other one a fist also. So now we get to manipulate the leg, so I'm just going to bring this leg up. And then the knee, bring it down. Like it's like a hinge, it only goes one way. And also the feet, you want the feet pointed away. He's not going to be standing on anything, he's going to be flying. So, and then I also I want to give this leg a little bit of tilt, because I don't want it to look really stiff. I want it to look like it's loose, so I give it a slight bend. Yeah, so something like that. So his fists or his hands will be fists when you draw them, or when you adjust them, right? But you pretty much get an idea. You can also do this manga perspective, and what that does, it makes things look like the really close-up things, like his hand look big, and then his feet down there look really small, kind of like a perspective kind of thing. Let me just, you can also rotate these legs, or yeah, like spin them a little bit, and I want that one out. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, you can just play with them, and remember you always got that undo button, so if you do something you don't like, you can always hit undo. Let's see here. You can also get rid of the shadow. I know, where is it at? Oh, here, apply light source. If you click that little plus sign, just uncheck the shadow, and so the shadow will go away. Another thing I like to do is click the apply light source. I don't use it to draw the shadows, but what I do use it for, I'll show you here in a bit. So you adjust it by moving on the sphere where the light is. So when your sphere is black, that means the light is behind the model, and then you can use it. What I like to do is I like to use it to see the features on the model, because if you have the light up to like in front, like it was in the beginning, or the default, you can't see any features on the face, and these models do have these features that help you. So what I like to do is I like to adjust it in such a way that it lets me see the features on his face. So you have you can see where the if you zoom in here, you can see where the eyes are, and the nose and the mouth. You can see where those things are, so that when you draw them, you'll kind of get an idea of where they need to be. So that's one thing I use the shadows for. And again, just lower the opacity so it's not too bright, and then just move your empty layer, move it above the model, so that when you start drawing, that you can see your black lines, or whatever, blue lines, or whatever, however you sketch. So and again, you're just gonna use it as a tool. It doesn't have all the details but you can see here's I'm just drawing really quickly, sketching it out of what it will look like. And remember, this model wasn't adjusted to be muscular like Superman. Of course, you can do all that before you start drawing. But what I really find these models good, really helpful for, is setting up your scenes. It really helps out a lot when you have multiple characters in your scene, and you want to position them just right, and you want to make it look like it's in real 3D space, instead of having all your characters on the same plane, where it kind of looks kind of like a two-dimensional. So this really helps with that, because you can put one in the foreground, one in the background, and one in the midground, and you can see how relatively they'll look to each other. So yeah, I really hope you guys got something out of this. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, And please consider subscribing to my channel. I do mostly gameplay, but now and then I do these Clip Studio art paint tutorials on just various stuff that I've learned from it, or that I've been recently learning from it. So please consider subscribing, and yeah, I hope you learned something, and I will see you guys in the next one.